Now, Florida Congresswoman Cammack, she's a member of the House Homeland Security and Agriculture Committee. Congresswoman Cammack, why do they keep saying Putin's price hike? They're embarrassing themselves at this point.
Well, good morning. And yes, it is 100% embarrassing. Do these people live in reality? Have they gone outside and filled up their gas tank? Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. Nancy Pelosi hasn't filled up her own gas tank in 40 years, let alone Joe Biden. It's easy to make ridiculous statements that are completely devoid of reality when you are a limousine liberal who basically governs from the protection of armored vehicles and have a staff of people who do things for you. But out here in the real world, Americans are facing a $5,500 a year increase, and that's the inflation tax. That's what everyday Americans are paying because of these disastrous policies. And did they not see the stock market crash yesterday? We're officially in a bear market. I mean, crypto lost over $200 billion over the weekend. I mean, everything is down. What are they saying? It is embarrassing, and quite frankly, it's getting dangerous.
As James Freeman wrote over the weekend, Washington keeps forcing Americans to take pay cuts because inflation is rising so much faster than wages. And Dan Clifton at Strategas Research wrote yesterday, Congresswoman, there were two policy errors: the passage of the $2 trillion in fiscal aid in February of last year, and then the failure to embrace an all-of-the-above energy policy in February of this year. But now the risk is the possibility of a reconciliation bill that will raise taxes and then spend money to reduce inflation. The potential for another policy error compounding an already bad situation is quite clear, but common sense does not always work in politics. Is there some common sense across the aisle, Congresswoman, in terms of, again, handing out money to people to fight inflation is the definition of insanity?
It is 100%. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, 100% definition of insanity. But we know, especially in Washington, D.C., common sense isn't common. And listen, I know I may only have a minor in economics, but Economics 101, the more that government spends, the less we, the people, get to keep in our pockets. And last year we saw Democrats spend upwards of $7 trillion. Did they think that there would be no consequences for that out-of-control spending? It's clear that when you compound the supply chain crisis and bad policies coupled with this hyper-aggressive Green New Deal agenda pushed by limousine liberals, that is going to result in clearly a recession. And everyday Americans, those that the left says that they stand up and fight for most, are the ones getting hit the hardest. When I was on my way to the airport yesterday, gas was $5.19 in my hometown. Now, if you are a senior on a fixed income, you're having to make the decision between gas or groceries. And now we see a reconciliation package that could potentially drive up more spending, which will just further compound the hits that the lower and middle class is taking. It's a disaster. All the more reason why Republicans have got to take the House back.
Joe Concha, jump in here.
Congresswoman, a quick question for you. Joe Concha from the Hill. This administration has shown to be both incompetent and tone deaf on inflation, right? That we could agree on. But if Republicans were the party in power, how would you and your party tackle this issue of inflation?
Well, it starts by cutting government spending. You can't spend and expect for prices to go down. And in fact, that's part of the reason why we're seeing so many of the challenges. We've got a government that's paying people not to work. They're staying at home. And when the White House says, oh, people are doing better than they ever have, things are up. No, people's COLA got wiped out in the first few months of this administration because of inflation. And all these XYZ policies that have nothing to do with the kitchen table issues, that is what is really driving the spending. We need to get down to the basics, return the programs that have no constitutional authority under the federal government to the states, stop the unfunded mandates, and stop this crazy wish list of agenda items that cannot survive in a free market economy. We have got to get back to the basics and get back to the kitchen table issues. That's how we win in November and how we rectify the situation in the next Congress.
Congresswoman Cammack, thank you so much for being here this morning. Always terrific to see you.